Hello, welcome back to Hunter Tune. Today I'm going to continue working on my S2000 project that we are putting a turbo kit on. And I've been working on the car a little bit off camera, and I got some new goodies for it that I'm going to be installing. I'm actually in the middle of installing a clutch on the car right now. So I got the transmission pulled out of it and the flywheel removed. So we are going to be putting an upgraded clutch in this car from Competition Clutch. And you guys know Competition Clutch has supported me in the past. I have the banner up here in the shop, and they sponsored a clutch for Barney back in the day. And I've ran single disc competition clutches in anything that I'm personally putting together, you know, that I care about. I run a competition clutch. Those guys, I mean, you guys see them in the Speed Factory car. I think all those guys run competition clutch, and they're like the fastest, you know, Honda stuff out there. So they have great customer service. And anyways, I could ramble on all day about how much I love competition clutch, but that's what we're gonna be running. And I picked up a Stage 4 6-pad ceramic clutch from Real Street Performance. So Real Street is a parts distributor for a lot of different companies such as Competition Clutch, and Real Street has always had the parts I needed in a reasonable amount of time, fast shipping, etc. So I took the factory flywheel. You guys know this car already had an aftermarket clutch in it. This is a lightened flywheel, and this is the clutch that was in it. Not bad, it still grabbed good. We probably could have ran it on low boost and been all right, but I don't want to have to do this again later when we decide to turn the power up. So I'm not gonna opt to run the lightweight flywheel because I don't personally like running lightweight flywheels on like a turbo setup or something that you're adding power to. I would rather have the weight of like the factory balancer and the factory flywheel to kind of dampen any vibrations in the engine. The lightweight stuff definitely will spool up a little bit quicker, like RPM will, you know, rise a lot faster, it'll feel snappier maybe, but I don't think the little bit of, you know, rotational mass is beneficial. Personally, I think it does more harm than good. I'd rather have the weight there to kind of cushion and dampen any vibrations inside the bottom end. And if you think about it, if you go with a lightweight flywheel, you don't have that like inertia to keep it going. The lightweight stuff is going to kind of bog down a lot faster, if you know what I'm saying. Where the heavier stock stuff will kind of, you know, keep the inertia going. I don't know. I'm just gonna run the stock one. So when I got this car, like I said, I already had the lightweight flywheel and stuff in it. I just pulled all that stuff out, and Earl, the guy that sold me the car, was kind enough to kind of walk me through pulling the transmission, which I might give you guys a couple tips here on, you know, removal of the transmission, because it's not exactly the most fun thing to do. But he did give me a factory flywheel here. Sorry, I have a complete mess at the shop right now, a lot of projects going on. But he gave me a stock flywheel with it. So I took the flywheel, the factory one, up to my machine shop here, and we did a haircut on it. So we resurfaced the flywheel, and my machinist buddy, Gary Weezy here in Neenah, he does a step cut. So like he'll cut the mating surface and the clutch pad surface here, so where the pressure plate bolts on. And what he did on this one is we did a little bit more bite on the pressure plate, so the step is a little bit bigger. I think it's like 5 thousandths more step or whatever, so that will give the pressure plate just a little bit more bite. Not a crazy amount, but it definitely helps, especially because when you resurface the flywheel and you only take off of here where the, you know, because this wears down as the clutch kind of wears out. If you got to think of that wear already that's here. So when you get the cut on the flywheel, just make sure they do both surfaces, not just the mating surface for the disc. So we're going to get the new pilot bearing installed into the flywheel and then bolt the flywheel onto the engine. And I might pick up the guys in a little while, give you some tips and stuff here and there, but I just want to knock this thing out. I don't know how much I'm going to film of it. I just want to get it done. 20 minutes. All right, guys, so I got the transmission installed, Now I'm distracted and not getting anything done. So I got the slave cylinder back on. The transmission went in really nice. The drive shaft's back in. Didn't really film all this, but it's pretty easy. The one thing I did not know about S2000s is when they have a pull type clutch. So when you pull the transmission off, you actually have to pull this clutch fork out and then put it back in when you reinstall the transmission. So I did all that. I had to lower the subframe down to get to the top transmission bolts way up there. So I just loosened up the 3 and then left it hanging by the 1 bolt right up here on both sides. It was a little sketchy, but that's what you got to do to get enough angle to get to those top bell housing bolts. And yeah, other than that, I was swearing at it on the disassembly, but putting it back together actually went pretty easily. The shifter up here is just held in with a couple bolts. And then some from the top side. That's all put back together. And now we're gonna lower the car back down and show you what we got going on up top, because we got some goodies going in. All right, so under the hood, I have a mess going on because I ended up pulling the intake manifold off this car the other day. Because one, it's really hard to get at the starter because you got to remove the starter to pull the transmission and do the clutch. But I pulled the intake manifold off because I just hated how it looked. The factory stuff has really got a lot going on. So I yanked all that off and I ended up buying a Skunk 2 Ultra Race manifold and a Jack Spania 90mm throttle. So we're gonna be putting this guy on, getting it bolted up onto there. It's really cool. I found out that S2000s actually use a metal intake manifold gasket, so didn't have to scrape off a bunch of paper on the head. The new intake manifold comes with a thermal gasket, so we're going to use that. And the water neck bolts on the bottom of the intake, so like it's just kind of a pain in the ass to work on some of this stuff. So I figured try to simplify some things and ditch that stock intake manifold. I'll show you what it looks like. Also, had to pull the alternator and the tensioner off in order to get at the intake manifold bolts, because with that stuff on, you can't access any of that stuff. So here's the factory intake manifold and fuel rail. So it's a center feed and regulator is like a stock Y8, it looks like. But yeah, a lot of this, there's like EGR and a bunch of stuff that I just don't want to use. Just kind of wanted to make it look a little better, and it might make a little bit more power. Sorry I couldn't do a comparison between the stock and the Ultra, but I just wanted to get it done while I'm working on it, kind of thing. So yeah, we're gonna get the intake on next, and I have another car that I'm actually gonna do the intake comparison on between a stock manifold and a Ultra Race, because I'm curious to see what it does to the power curve. Yeah, we're gonna get that bolted on. All right guys, it's been a couple days. I'm an expert video maker, obviously, and show you guys how I do everything perfectly, right? But the S2000 is getting really close. I got the intake bolted on. We made an intercooler pipe, or we made intercooler piping the other day, and it's a one-piece pipe that goes down to the intercooler over here. Same thing with the turbo side. Hunter Tune blow-off valve, looking snazzy. So we got that on. The Jack Spania Racing throttle body went on pretty good. We got the stock cable mounted onto the Jack Spania throttle, but it doesn't open all the way, so we have to figure out what's going on there. I think there's like a stopper on the gas pedal. It feels like it's hitting something where like maybe we could just take out the stopper and it will open the throttle all the way, because I think the throw on this throttle body is actually bigger than the stock one, which would make sense because it's bigger. I also got the fuel rail installed that came with this manifold, and I got a PQY fuel regulator mounted onto this fuel rail, and then a set of Hunter Tune 1500s are down in there. Kind of hard to see them, but yeah. And then I used my OBD2 to EV6 fail-proof connectors to convert the harness over to my Hunter Tune injectors. I converted the fuel lines to AN, So we got AN return line and feed line using huntertune.com fittings. On the Jack Spania throttle body, I used a Mustang 5-liter TPS. I got that at Napa. So that is the TPS you need to run with the Jack Spania throttle body. Now, you cannot mount a map sensor on this throttle body. There's no spot for it. So good thing I'm running the Haltech Elite 1500 computer, because that has a built-in map sensor. So what I did when I installed the intake manifold is I put a vacuum port going into the car, so I have a vacuum line going in this hole, and that is going to go to the ECU. I also got my gauges ran, so I have an oil pressure gauge coming off where the feed line is, and then I also have my wideband going into the car, so we have the wiring for the gauges sitting down there and up there. So I'm gonna have to get that plugged in. I did, however, have to extend my intake air temp sensor wiring. So I had to just add about a foot of length to the wiring to plug into the spot on the Skunk Ultra manifold where this IAT is in a different position. So, and then I also had to wire the Mustang TPS to work with the Honda harness. So I used a banjo, the thing that actually comes with my wastegates. I used this and this port right here to angle down the coolant hose that normally runs up to the throttle body and stuff. I just have it going to the intake and then back down to the thermostat housing. So yeah, next we got it filled up with coolant. I did a lot of stuff over the last couple days getting this thing together, but now I'm getting my gauges in. This is a gauge pod from Autometer. I just got it mounted onto the stock pillar here, and I drilled a couple holes to run the wiring up through it. Just like that. And then you drill some 3/16 holes and you use these little push tabs to mount it. I like how it looks. It's clean, pretty clean install, I think. It fits nice, and yeah, we're gonna get this guy into the car next, and then we gotta figure out how to mount this into the car too, because it's not gonna run now with the 1500s. It's not gonna run on the stock ECU. Plus, it doesn't have an idle air control valve anymore. Probably gonna be a whole separate video on getting it running with the Haltech, but for now, we're just gonna get the rest of the stuff buttoned up, and we might tease you guys with a fire up. But I'm gonna try to make a video with the Haltech setting it up. So let's get the gauges in. All right guys, so I got the S2000 off the lift, and I got the gauge pod installed. Sorry, it's freaking late. I've been working on this thing for a while. The gauges are looking pretty sweet. So there we are, I got my air fuel and the oil pressure. I got the wiring down here that I have to connect into the Haltech, which I got the Haltech installed where the factory computer was, up in here. You can see it tucked back in there. I ran the vacuum line into it, the jumper harness right here, and I ended up just Velcroing it to the side plate. So like where the stock ECU sits, I mounted Velcro on there and then onto the back of the ECU. And that works pretty good. I primed the fuel system. Everything seems like it's working there. I recalibrated the TPS in the Haltech for the Mustang TPS. That's all working good. What else? Yeah, I plugged into the Haltech and I was just kind of like looking through stuff because I've never used one before, and I couldn't figure out like how to put injector data into the Haltech. I did find out how to change the flow rate, but I didn't find where to put like the voltage offsets or anything. So all I did was implement 1500 cc into the flow rate. That's all I did. And It gave me an engine position error for some reason. I cleared it and it hasn't come back. I don't know if that's a thing. I didn't change that. I plugged the crank sensor back in, and I don't think I unplugged any other sensor that has to do with that. So I'm hoping it was just kind of a fluke, or like a, you know, key cycle thing. It wasn't actually like an engine position problem. It has tack signal and everything like that. Sorry if this is weird, rambling, random video, sorry. But I did get it to run with the 1500s and this Jack Spania throttle body. The throttle body probably needs to be adjusted. I probably need to give it more idle speed because it wants to die if I let off the gas. But it does run, and it runs surprisingly good. I don't have the wideband even powered yet, so I don't even know what the air fuel is. I honestly just wanted to start it with the injectors. I wanted to check for fuel leaks, which doesn't seem like there is any. And yeah, I'm just gonna give it a quick fire for you guys before I end the video. So you can see when I lift off the gas, it dies, but it revs, like it revs pretty clean. I think I got my fuel pressure set. It sucks because it doesn't stay idling long enough for me to like check the fuel pressure, and I'm not even filming myself. It doesn't stay idling long enough, so I have to figure out the idle. I gotta put the radiator cap back on. I think it's full of coolant. It was burping out of there when I was revving it. Probably not a head gasket, hopefully not a head gasket. It didn't have issues before, so it shouldn't now. Yeah, I'm actually pretty excited. It sounds really good. Just a lot more work to come, and eventually it'll all come together and we'll be driving it, but it's probably gonna be a while before that. I wanna get a flex fuel sensor. I want to get a boost controller on it. I want to get the wideband and the oil pressure wired into the ECU. All that stuff is to come, probably in the next video. So if you guys want to learn some haul tech stuff with me, I don't really know what I'm doing, but I did manage to get it running with the 1500s. And whatever stock Honda S2000 injector dead times are. The only thing I did change in the haul tech was I think the S2000 injectors were set up as a low impedance injector, and I set these ones up as high impedance because my injectors are high impedance. Yeah, and I've been just in and out of working on this thing because been slammed with orders. I am going to be busy all day tomorrow doing orders. So time is limited to work on this thing, so that's why I'm kind of out of breath. It's like 1:45 in the morning and I'm out here working on it because I have a little time right now. So anyways, thanks for watching, guys. I'm so excited for this car. It's not even funny. I can't wait to get it back on the road and driving. I got to get 2 slim fans for it. I got to get cooling fans wired in still. Just a lot of little stuff. I also did set up the inboard map sensor with the Haltech. I'll probably try to show you guys that stuff if you're interested. So thanks for watching. The new clutch is in, the new intake is on, and the car's running. That's a huge fucking win. Have a great night and a better tomorrow, guys. God bless. We'll see you later. Oh.